FM and 1350 AM. The Ticket.
So, Boise State, and welcome our video audience. Find us online, Prater The Ballgame here in the RoPaint.com studio. So we got to meet the three Boise State football coaches today, the new additions to the staff. Jabril Frazier, who's a very familiar name for Bronco Nation, but James Montgomery, the new running back coach, and Eric Shinender, the new defensive line coach. And we're going to do a three-part series, so you'll get to know these guys in depth today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Today, Prater, we thought we'd start with Jabril Frazier.
Yeah, and you guys know Jabril Frazier as a player. Jabril Frazier as a player was one of the most dominating defensive linemen, edge rushers, studs. I think he was a stud back in the day.
Yeah.
And ended up dabbling with the NFL. I never got on the field, never really got out of the Jets, out of the Jets locker room. He had some knee issues, some knee injuries, some health issues. And he goes back to Los Angeles. His dad runs a security company or is part of a security company. And Jabril Frazier got a job working security in a halfway house in Watts. And he was depressed, absolutely depressed. This is kind of an introverted kid who was a dynamic football player at Boise State. I thought he was going to make a difference in the NFL.
I did too.
He had the body, He had the athleticism, he had the drive, he had the senior year, he had the momentum, and I really thought he was going to stick in the National Football League. And the next thing you know, he's chasing away halfway house, issues in Watts.
Moved home with mom and dad.
Yeah, moved home and he said he was just absolutely depressed. And we're going to paint the story from there. It's a beautiful story. We got a meeting today, ball game, and you and I came away, holy shnikes, that dude is going to be fun to watch over the next couple of years.
Jabril talked about, he had been a GA for 4 years. 3 years, which is a long time to be a GA.
And the first year he was a tight end GA. He played defense.
He was working with John Bates.
Yes, tight end GA. It's like, we have nothing for you, but you're kind of a good dude. Just go over there in the corner and stay out of the way.
And we work with tight ends. But he talked about the emotions Jabril Frazier did of getting the call from Andy Avalos saying, we're going to make you our edge coach. This is Jabril Frazier talking about that very moment.
It was so many emotions. You talk about that. Once I got in this career, it was because of those two guys, Coach Spencer Danielson and Coach Andy Avalos. They're the reason why I wanted to become a coach. The impact they made on me as a player, the way they changed my life, and I mean, for me to get that call and to know that that's what I can do for the guys that are in the program right here. We talk about it every single day. How can you make your impact? And for me, it was to be a coach. And when he gave me that call and told me that, I'm now the edge coach, I almost cried, teared up because, I've been through a lot. This place has done a lot for me. And to give back to this place, to give back to the city, you probably hear me say that a lot. I tell people that a lot in recruiting, man, is this place has done a lot for me. And so I owe it all back to this place.
Jabril Frazier talked about the journey, kind of, we just kind of settled up ball game, and I talked about where he was and where he was in life and how he was feeling about himself. But here's Jabril Frazier on the journey.
I came here, as a young man from Los Angeles, California, and I came here on a gray shirt, and people might not know what that is now, but it was back then we had a sliding scale, and you had to have a certain GPA and certain SAT score, and I didn't meet the requirements, but they still gave me the opportunity to come here. I set out a whole year. It was nothing but football in school, and not even football, but it was just weightlifting in school, and it made me really realize why I played college football, and that if football gets taken away from you, what's next? And it really made me mature, and I think that's one of the reasons I look back. I really matured a lot in that time, and throughout my career, I've always had ups and downs with injuries and things like that, but I've always noticed that hard work works, and that's the definition of my life. Hard work works. From school to football to now, being a full-time coach, is always, my definition, hard work.
Hard work works. Makes sense there for Jabril Frazier. You don't hear the gray shirt story very often anymore either. And that's a tough road to climb. And Jabril did this. And after he climbed that ladder, went down that road and went to the NFL and had a shot, and that didn't work out. What led him to finding coaching? Here's part of that story.
I tell people this story a lot, once I got done with football, I was really lost, man. I moved back to Los Angeles and, I lived with my parents, and, you come from a guy that, I feel like I had a lot, here at Boise State. I've made a lot of plays, and then for me to go to the Jets and, my knee situation didn't work out, and I had to move in back with my parents, and that was really a humbling experience for me. But I believe a lot, in God, and everything happens for a reason. I look back and I'm like, wow, that really made me find out who I was, and it built my faith stronger, and it made me really figure out what's next in life. And I started training outside linebackers down in Los Angeles, and I really gained a passion from it. And I used to talk to Coach D and Coach Av a lot, about how can I get in coaching and things like that. And it's funny because they kept telling me to stay away from it. And I was like, oh, you telling me to stay away from it? I'm about to really run to it now. And for Coach Harsin to give me the opportunity to become a GA on the offensive side of the ball, I look back and I'm like, wow, I learned a lot from that experience. And then, so like you say, answering your question, man, I really learned a lot. I really, I burnt that desire and passion to really become a coach, really learn how to coach the game of football and things like that.
Think about this. It's 2023. Jabril Frazier has been part of the Boise State football family since 2014. That's the year he gray shirted. He jumped on the football field in 2015. That is a lot of players. That is a lot of coaches, and he's been very popular along the way. And somebody today asked Jabril about getting and feeling the love from the players as he was making this transition, and how he wants to pay those players back.
I did see it. A lot of the players hit me up. They were pushing me. And, I mean, at the end of the day, my whole objective is just to make an impact on everybody, people in the community, no matter big or small, man. I just want to, make an impact on others. I walk around with a smile just because I know what I've been through, and I know what, what the futures hold. But I just try to be that shining light, for the guys in this room, in this, this building, man. I've been in their shoes, I play here. So I'm always, trying to motivate guys, what I learned as a football player, how can I help them be better, and that's what I tell guys. It's not about me no more. It's about how can I make these guys, reach their goals and aspirations, to play at the next level, or not even play at the next level, but to become better men.
Head coach Jabril Frazier, you're listening to right now on Idaho Sports Talk, Prater The Ballgame, a GA, a graduate assistant for 3 years. Why?
That's a good question, man. It was, GA for 3 years. And like he said, you don't make a lot of money, but at the end of the day, I knew what I wanted to be. I would have GA, longer or whatever it took to become a full-time coach, because, like I told you guys, man, I've been through a lot of things harder in life than that, to be a GA. So I look back and I'm just like, look at the great issues, look at the injuries, look at the things I grew up in, the city I grew up in, and to look back, I'm like, man, 3 years of GN, yes, it's hard, but I made sure every time I walked in the building, I had a smile on my face, and I worked my butt off, and good things happen to good people.
Jabril Frazier grew up in the Los Angeles area, the Watts area of Los Angeles. Spencer Danielson did not. And these two, when they first met, butted heads a little bit. Two completely different players. Here's how they feel about each other now.
I look at, college football as almost a second puberty for somebody, and, I moved away from Los Angeles, and, the things I learned in Los Angeles probably weren't the best things, growing up in that type of environment. And I got to Boise State, and, it's funny that you asked, because when me and Coach D first met, like, he was my junior year, like I kind of like butted heads with him, and then he started to build that relationship with me, and we became, he was one of my mentors throughout college. And, he basically directed the path, and like, hey, if you do this, you do this. He really developed me into a man, and I give him all praise for that. And he's one of my mentors. Anytime I have a question, I look up to Coach D. Anytime this happens, I go to Coach D. So, that's been since I was, junior when he got here as a GA, and he was coaching our outside linebacker room. And so he's always been there for me. And so I've always, leaned on him for everything that I needed, and so.
All right, Spencer Danielson there. Being talked about by Jabril Frazier. Hard to imagine Spencer Danielson coming in as a GA. Can you imagine how fired up Coach D probably was as a GA? I could probably see how he did butt heads with Jabril, because Jabril's this star edge, and he's got this little frisky, pepped up GA. Hey, Jabril, we're going to do this. He's like, hey, chill, man. I can see how maybe they butted heads, and now it's the beautiful friendship. And Jabril went on to talk about just how he's changed. Where he's from, what he's went through. And he said, working on the YOU.
I've worked on myself a lot, and that's you grow. And if you're not growing, then you're going somewhere else. And, I've grown a lot. ever since I got done playing, and as a player, I grew, my senior year, I became a captain. That really helped me out a lot to really, create my own voice of who I really am and how to, lead others and things like that. And, going after football and getting to coaching, I had to grow in that, it's not as easy as people think to, oh, I'm gonna walk in and just be a coach. Like that's the mindset that a lot of people have, but I really had to learn how to teach, how to lead, how to be a mentor to others and things like that. And so I'm on a steady climb to, continue to grow and continue to, help others out.
Ballgame, I love the fact that you asked this class question in terms of, we just talked about the age difference between Jabril and some of these teammates. So there's some players on this football team that he was teammates with. Dimitri Washington comes to mind for sure. Now he's asked to coach them. That's a very awkward dynamic. It's not new. It's happened before, but how are Jabril and this coaching staff handling that dynamic?
I remember once I first got in this career, I remember Coach D told me that if I really want to take this far, I got to separate myself from a player, from the players, and and not in a bad way, but I separated myself right away, and I was like, hey, I'm all business. I want to be a coach, and I went through it a different way, and so I never did anything with the players outside of football and things like that. And I was always, they always see me in the building, grinding late hours and putting in the work. And I tell them all the time, man, I put in the work for you guys. And so and that's probably one of the reasons go back when a lot of the players was like, hey, Coach Frazier, because I tell those guys, man, I'm gonna grind for you guys no matter what. I want what's best for you guys. It's not nothing about me. It's what's best for not the edge guys, but the offensive line. I'm pushing those guys. I'm pushing, running backs, things like that. It's not for myself. I'm trying to impact the team on a whole different level.
It's nice to have an ex-captain, I think, on the coaching staff. And here's a guy who grew up in South Central Los Angeles. It didn't make the grades academically, probably didn't have a lot of the resources to help him make the grades academically. And there's a couple ways you can go on this with your life. You can not make it in football and move back home with mom and dad and, work security at a halfway house, or get into some type of professions that probably aren't going to have much fulfillment with them. Or you can be Jabril Frazier and just, hey, I'll be a GA as long as it takes me to get on this staff. I'll tell you this, Jabril talks about how exciting he was to take that phone call from Coach Avalos to say, Jabril, we're making you our edge coach. I bet Andy Avalos had as much joy on the other end of that call, offering him that position. These are one of those great stories. And Prater, he speaks like he graduated from Harvard or something right now, and that's not how he was when he came here.
Yeah, he's
great story.
He's definitely changed. He's definitely worked on himself. He's definitely different. I love this story. I love where some of the background in terms of getting that call. He was driving to the mall with his girlfriend, and Andy Avalos called, and they were sitting in the parking lot, and Andy Avalos essentially changed his life. But Andy Avalos also understands the situation. This is one of those rare deals in sports, guys. It's a 1-year tryout. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure his contract is a full year, because Jabril Frazier, there was a term in his contract. He has to finish some kind of certificate deal coming up this February, and then he gets to coach this season. And it's literally a 1-year deal, $120,000. He's by far the best affordable deal on this staff. So it's a 1-year deal. It's a 9-month tryout. If you're going to be able to make it, you're going to be able to make it this year, and then we're going to decide whether you're going to be a coach or not. At this point, there's not a chance in hell I'm voting against Jabril Frazier.
Yeah, going to be a fun one. And tomorrow, I believe we will get to know the...
Let's flip a coin. Should we let the listeners decide? Do you want to hear from the new running back coach, James Montgomery, or the new defensive line coach? I believe he's the associate head coach,
okay,
Eric Shenander.
Great resume for Shenander, man. Really, yeah. Why don't you guys text us? Who you want to hear from, the running back coach or the defensive line coach?
I'm going to say something about Eric Shenander right now that's going to probably get me in trouble, and then I'm going to love on him for the rest of my life. When he walked into the lobby today to do the interviews, I thought it was the busboy bringing us lunch.
Kind of weird, huh? He had no Boise State article of clothing on. And I thought that was weird.
He didn't look like a football coach.
Not at all.
Am I wrong, Ballgame?
No, every football coach wears some sort of Boise State, some garment with Boise State's logo somewhere.
He had mustard pants on. They were fine. He had like the quarter zip that JP wears all the time now.
Yes.
He had some kind of work boots. He's kind of got he's got a frumpy little belly like me. He's short. I mean, I'm sorry, coach. Don't beat me up. I'm just being honest.
He looked like a dad, like
I thought he was delivering lunch.
Yeah, dropping his kids off at Cub Scouts. I don't know. It's just like, I honestly, Prater, when he walked down the steps too, I was like, is that Coach? I thought the same thing. Is that him or not?
So we're guilty. We're guilty of the stereotype game here. We will move on and fall in love with this guy, and you're going to hear from either one of Coach Montgomery or Coach Shenander over the next 2 days. You're going to love them both.
Sweet deal from Sockeye Brewing this week. That's Friday, 9 a.m. at KTIK.com. You give us $25, we'll give you $50 to spend at Sockeye Brewing. JP, let's hop on those soapboxes here on KTIK Sports Radio, The Ticket.